There exists a widespread belief that spirits inhabit desolate and abandoned places, which is why it is strongly advised not to wander alone during the nighttime hours. These spirits are believed to possess negative and malevolent energy, and their presence is often said to bring about unsettling and eerie incidents. Please come and listen to 3 terrifying true stories from the Tricon Tale series, episodes 4 to 86. The Initial Listener. My name is Nisha Moily, and I have been a committed and dedicated listener of Tricon Tale for a whole year. Whenever I read about my own personal experiences, I am reminded of the time in Dahading, where there was a dry stream situated right next to our residence in Butwal. My grandfather frequently shared intriguing stories about it with me. Why a dry stream? I didn't have the courage to approach it, so even when I needed to use the restroom during the night, I would rise alone, believing it was preferable not to be too informed. Although it is mentioned that the dry stream is relatively moderate, the reality is that whenever I needed to use the restroom during the night, they would awaken me. My husband would always accompany me to the toilet situated near our home. Each and every night, Huzuram would accompany me to the restroom, and one particular day, despite it being a seemingly ordinary day, Huzuram fell gravely ill the following day. Nevertheless, there was an extraordinary occurrence, and something unforeseen transpired. That particular night, when I found myself needing to use the restroom because my husband was unwell, I got up and proceeded to the toilet. Unable to drift back into sleep, I made the decision to go by myself toward the toilet. After using it, I opened the main door of the house and stepped outside for the first time on my own, feeling somewhat anxious. Due to the exceedingly intense brightness radiating from the body, I was unable to perceive the outside clearly. I observed the identical dry opening situated near the restroom, and as I glanced towards the restroom, I noticed the same opening on the opposite side. They appeared not to notice anything unusual, just as previously. I thought someone was there, but I couldn't tell and left. Upon recognizing the situation, my beloved companion approached the entrance and I swiftly comprehended her intention. I hurriedly made my way to the restroom and entered promptly. The door of the toilet was also so wet, the light of the sun was dim, meaning the breathing of the soul at the door was faint, and the moonlight from outside was pale. That night, Cheese reached inside the toilet and the moonlight from outside came inside the toilet. The pearls of the soul's knots were scattered in the toilet for 2 or 3 seconds at 81. The door of the toilet closed and then it was quiet. It seemed as though the darkness had thoroughly enveloped the entire interior and the illumination of the moonlight barely penetrated. Just a moment or two earlier, an object or presence had blocked the moonlight streaming in right before the entrance of the toilet. It appeared as if an entity or individual was stationed there, obstructing it. What could it possibly be? After that, I didn't have any support. Even in the impending future of the trio of confinement palaces, the entryway to the formidable bed-tooler was somewhat ajar, and the illumination radiating from the exterior was suddenly blocked by an object or presence positioned directly in front of the entrance. You are the one who opened the dry creek of deep darkness. Seeing across the other side, many rhythms will be created, but my mind was frightened by the sight. Even though the PSI opened the door, I didn't blink an eye, didn't run, and entered the house. I lay down here with the elders, and the TSI covered me with a blanket, and I didn't shiver inside. The third one is a political hero. The primary entrance outside is not insignificant. A resonant noise reverberated, and I communicated on the telephone line to my elder. Indeed, I was genuinely terrified. The authentic words emerged from somewhere, and at that precise moment, my heart began to race rapidly. My dear, it was such an utterly terrifying experience. I was already frightened, and I nearly lost consciousness. Oh, the rhythm and the director. Mashuramal is another Siramal. I was unable to completely comprehend what had transpired, as I only remember waking up in the early morning, feeling utterly disoriented and confused. I couldn't fully grasp the events of the prior night, and I was unable to sleep peacefully. They laughed at me, leaving me in a state of complete bewilderment. I attempted to call out to them, but they did not respond. Should I express my thoughts or remain silent? I kept a vigilant watch over you throughout the entire night, yet you didn't even take a single breath, so I was compelled to remain awake the whole night, my dear. After PS, I perceived that you, my beloved, observed me that night, akin to all the shadows of the dogs, just like across the arid riverbed. I frequented the restroom more, and the vehicle remained there, emitting a thorough jostling noise. The primary entrance of the residence was secured, and someone outside uttered words. It wasn't merely a single day, but the vehicle was only momentarily halted, and my dear arrived to retrieve me. The explanations were already in place, and we made our way to the restroom, where I managed to replicate the same disarray at home. TSI directed me to clean it up. Anmol understood that when you referred to the faint outline, the silhouette of a person gently grazed your shadowy sphere, and it felt quite delightful. You see, what Bhauji perceived, it seemed as though I had encountered Yamaraj in a far-off corner. Even then, my beloved didn't fully comprehend me gradually, and when I reflect on the incident, I feel quite frightened. But recollections of my dear come to mind, and I continue to remember them constantly. Friend every day. My name is Sandesh Silwal from Sindhupalchok. I clearly recall two key incidents from when I lived in Imarul, one happening when I was just 7. It was during the vibrant Dashain festival, and at my young age, everything seemed delightful. The whole Dashain was joyfully spent with my family. On the auspicious Dashain Tika day, everyone at home applied the Tika, and then we visited the esteemed village elders. On the day of Bijaya Dashami, we were fully prepared to apply the Tika and celebrate the occasion with great joy and enthusiasm. However, on that particular day, the sky was densely covered with clouds, and it appeared as though it might rain, but initially, it did not. Despite our hopes for clear weather, it began to rain heavily. We were supposed to visit my aunt's uncle's house to apply the Tika, but the unforeseen rain made us reconsider and adjust our plans for the day. We waited with immense anticipation, hoping that the rain would eventually cease, but it continued to pour down heavily without any sign of stopping. We all sat together as a group, watching the rain fall relentlessly. Around 3 p.m. on the day of the pilgrimage, the rain stopped, and the path to my aunt's uncle's house was clear. It was already night, and I felt a bit anxious about what to say if asked why I was going. I listened to my own thoughts and realized that if I didn't go, I might regret it in the future. So I decided to go, thinking about the possibilities that lay ahead. The elder said, "Come on, let's go now, or it'll be late." So the 3 of us went to aunt's uncle's house, the elder's place. It necessitated approximately 2 hours to arrive at aunt's residence from my maternal home. The road was entirely muddy as a result of the recent rainfall. It was slippery and challenging to walk, so by the time we reached halfway, it was already 5 o'clock. We were cautiously placing our feet and moving at a slow pace, which is why it consumed such a lengthy duration. The path we were traversing was just as intimidating as Grandma had described. There were trees all around, just as Grandma had mentioned. You were expressing dissatisfaction about how we should have remained at home due to the late hour and the type of path we were traversing. Nevertheless, we continued to proceed onward. I was walking joyfully with Aunt, contemplating that I would reach Aunt's residence, receive a blessing, and obtain some money. After some time, we arrived at a location that resembled a small shelter. Grandma proposed that we rest there for a short while, so we did. While we were resting there, it was already 5:30. It was completed. Consequently, we made the decision to rise and commence walking once more. As we proceeded, my aunt perceived that someone might be approaching from behind us. This prompted her to glance back frequently. It was nearing 6 p.m. and the chilly season was drawing near. Therefore, my aunt proposed that we pause for a brief moment because it appeared that a young gentleman was approaching from behind, and if we happened to slip in the mud, having a young gentleman nearby could potentially be beneficial. "Shall we proceed together?" my mother inquired. The darkness was growing more intense at a rapid pace. With trees surrounding us on all sides, the path had become even more obscured. Therefore, if there was indeed a gentleman on such a path, as my daughter mentioned, assistance might be accessible. Contemplating this, my grandmother concurred with the idea of waiting. Consequently, my aunt turned towards the gentleman approaching from behind, and both my grandmother and I also turned around. In the subsequent scene, I found it rather challenging to discern anything with clarity. It appeared as though an individual was approaching. Upon a more thorough examination, it resembled a person of substantial build, carrying an object on their back. Aunt remarked, "Hey brother, why don't we proceed together on this treacherous path?" Yet the individual who seemed to be approaching from behind did not respond in any manner as they continued advancing towards us. It appeared somewhat peculiar and mismatched, resembling a very robust and sturdy figure, yet peculiar in some manner. Aunt called out once more, "Brother, brother," but still there was no response. Despite her inquiry, there was no answer, prompting her to think, what kind of intoxicated individual is this? Unable to even respond. The fog was exceptionally dense, thoroughly enveloping me, and there was not a single vehicle nor a torchlight visible ahead. I noticed an individual in the distance holding a torchlight, illuminating the pathway. It was quite challenging, and upon reaching the third turn, the rain began to pour down heavily. I observed someone who appeared to be robust, and the individual behind us allowed them to proceed. During the adventurous expedition to my uncle's residence, there existed two distinct pathways. At that particular moment, we made the decision upon one specific route, and I was holding the torchlight ahead of our group. I observed that the water was not flowing in the opposite direction. We occasionally glanced back and realized that the torchlight required recharging. We positioned the third brick on the boundary for additional support. Upon reaching the midpoint of our adventurous journey along the designated pathway, I turned around and observed something quite extraordinary manifesting itself at the intersection. The individual who was designated to eliminate it remained standing there on the 2nd of May, and a portion of credit shall be attributed to the pilgrims as they conversed with such fervor, reminiscent of a large pig ascending.
It seems reminiscent of a melody.
Even within the local neighborhood, these particular words were overheard, and Ajay also forgot that numerous individuals were frightened. It appeared as though such words were not heard in conjunction with uncle. So he remarked, "Come on, Grandma, I will also escort you to the hall." Following that, uncle handed me a flashlight on 2 separate occasions, and I remained there, glancing back at the small creature leaping, and I observed it once more behind us with no one present. Oh dear brother, isn't the entirety of the brother's head completely intact? It appeared as though the entire situation was exactly like that. Didn't you notice the head? Initially, when the TSI conducted the examination, even while observing this path, it seemed as though the TSI was transporting something. The reason for not noticing the head was because it took 30. Behind the facts, the head of the brothers' island was indeed present, yet it was neither noticed nor discovered. Considering that the earnings remained consistent, Hamid promptly arrived on 2 separate occasions, she mentioned. After seeing such a frightening scene, the 3 of us ran quickly. Don't run away. The third one ran to Uncle's house. After reaching Uncle's house, we met here. We saw this kind of thing and I recounted it. The elder of Uncle's house was also grateful. They told the children that the night was about to fall, so they should be careful. But they said to Hazuram that the old brother there had a dream, and the owner was proud of the scolding. On the night of the pilgrimage, all the moons were shining brilliantly, and the atmosphere was imbued with a mystical aura. We, meaning myself, my aunt, and my grandmother, were not feeling unwell. Almost as if we were destined to embark on the journey together, we decided to take Morkata along with us. Despite the eerie sensation, my mind was still pondering over it. During that particular moment, my uncle decided not to offer a response, and I took a significant risk by stopping everyone from moving forward. We might have encountered consequences, so I chose not to inform them. That evening, it felt as though we were all engaging in conversation as if we were genuinely blessed, almost as if a divine presence was accompanying us, and nothing went wrong. This and another significant incident occurred merely a year ago in the village. My uncle's son successfully completed his fast and the entire extended family was invited to the village. They mentioned that the fast was completed in the village and thus they organized a substantial gathering at my elder uncle's residence. I was initially reluctant to go, but the day before yesterday they insisted, so my elder uncle's son, my brother, and I went there. The weather was quite pleasant and we thoroughly enjoyed the gathering. The family traveled to the village for the fasting ceremony and subsequent celebration, thoroughly enjoying the event. Numerous women remained awake late into the night, engaging in conversation. I had to ponder quite a bit and eventually found myself needing to visit the toilet, so I made my way towards the outdoor restroom. The distance to the house's toilet is slightly more than the usual distance to a toilet, but it's manageable. Inside the restroom, there was an absence of illumination and no courageous figure to provide guidance. The brothers were instructed to fetch water, yet they showed reluctance. Consequently, I quickly stood up and despite Ajay's playful teasing, I utilized my mother's mobile phone light to navigate my way to the restroom, assisted by the illumination from a Bolero vehicle. And with the potatoes included in the dish, along with the pearls, the elevation of the dish, Malaika uttered something akin to a message. A message. 3 petite ones, my name at the same interval, in the same manner. Did he weep? Upon hearing the call, I observed that the path was unobstructed, yet the toilet remained closed. Behind me, there lay a dense bamboo grove. The time was approximately 11:30 at night when I heard the call once more. I felt somewhat uneasy, contemplating whether it was a prank orchestrated by a cousin or brother. I continued to ponder over it, questioning if it was merely a figment of my imagination. Outside the toilet, Amoni was standing near the toilet door. Is the deer considered a servant or perhaps a brother to Bani Moili in the city of Meerut? I have never encountered any animal in your vicinity, Sonia, while taking a brief respite in the restroom. Truthfully, there was absolutely no one here to interrupt me, neither my sibling nor any other individual. I found myself entirely without companionship. In the midst of a dense bamboo grove during the night, you sat silently by the pond, attentively observing everything in your surroundings. I was neither feeling sleepy nor experiencing thirst, and I was guided by a genuine sensation, as if I had uncovered something truly unique. I pondered why I was being gently nudged back and forth throughout this entire bamboo grove, questioning the underlying reason behind it. The notion that an individual might be residing directly in front of me began to induce anxiety, and my mind commenced to question it. In the late hours of the night, surrounded by the dense and lush bamboo grove, I found myself seated with just a few minutes left until the stroke of midnight. Regardless of the prevailing weather conditions or any other circumstances, my mind was intensely focused on a singular thought. There, right in the very heart of the grove, I encountered an unfamiliar presence that left me utterly perplexed and bewildered. How did this occurrence transpire, as if my own eyes were being deceived, and it vanished like smoke right before my very eyes? The ceremonial practice from Raja had been forgotten, and the buffalo stayed seated, with the scent of the shed and the bedding not dispersing. When the breeze had blown, I experienced a sense of regret and hurriedly went inside the house. I noticed Motisari approaching, and upon entering, I found Brother Rohan engaged in conversation with our relatives. Aunt informed me about it. Okay. Due to the rope, the demise abruptly turned in the polling, and the information struck the organization. The brother's song number 81, the third thread was observed, and that elder brother was utterly astonished and pondered, "What?" Oh, sister, one elder brother mentioned to me that it wasn't me and couldn't articulate anything, just shed a few tears. However, this isn't everything. This polling wept for the third time, then spoke. Yes, I felt sleepy. Tomorrow morning I might see the same scene in that place on the bus. Several incidents came to mind. My planet seems to have spoken a lot, everyone says. All were bewildered, staggering as if nothing happened after the incident. That night I saw a dog behind, barking. I sat and cried, the thread of tears like sand. If the soul lives, it might be a blessing. If history has a pearl, maybe it's a brother. I had a strong intuition that they might still be actively involved in the ATS ritual hostage program, and I fully comprehended the occurrence I witnessed late at night. A shiver ran down my spine when the spirit communicated 3 times, and it seemed as though someone referenced Goa's voice reverberating. It was an incredibly dense and profound night, with an abrupt flash in the bamboo thicket, instilling fear in the haunted neighborhood. What leads you to think that cheese might possibly be intimidating?
If you enjoyed this narrative, kindly subscribe to our channel.
Friends, please ensure that you subscribe and don't forget.